Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and I wanted to touch on this whole idea of what planet that Qimir, I guess an Osha now, are on, and how it relates to Plagueis and the cave and all this other stuff. And so let's get into this. So is the Acolyte's unknown planet really Star Wars' Oct? 2, the Acolyte's 6th episode, Osha found herself on Qimir's secret hideaway. That place was first seen in the series premiere when May's master appeared atop a rock along crashing ocean waves. Unlike every other world on the series, though, the Star Wars series didn't give Qimir's world a name. The Acolyte labeled it only as Unknown Planet, but it was impossible for Star Wars fans not to wonder if we already know what it's actually called, Oct 2. The Acolyte's unknown planet looked nearly identical to the planet of Oct 2 from the sequel trilogy. But though showrunner Leslie Headland has now confirmed that the unknown planet is not Oct 2, the similarities still ring loudly. Qimir living on a planet that reminds us of Oct 2 creates immediate parallels between the tale of the very dark side user who will put the Jedi on a path to near ruin a century later, and the story of how a reclusive Luke Skywalker trained Rey. That is not what they're going for here, and I will explain in a minute. It's very obvious what planet this is. I can't believe more people aren't talking about this, but anyways, let's keep going. What is the Acolyte's unknown planet? Here's why it reminded fans of Oct 2. The Acolyte's unknown planet and Star Wars planet Oct 2 share all the same physical properties. They're both mostly covered in water dotted with lush green rocky islands. Each is also home to adorable little bird-like creatures, although in the new Disney Plus show, the animals are not porgs. Simply put, they look identical in every way. Well, that means they're not identical in every way if they have a different type of animal on the planet. Those similarities are only part of the reason why it was impossible not to think Osha found herself on Oct 2 on the Acolyte. On the Acolyte? You mean in the Acolyte? The Acolyte also framed many shots in ways that clearly harken back to The Last Jedi. The camera watched from behind as she walked out of the tunnel to look out at the ocean. We saw similar shots of Rey and Luke framed just like that. Osha then followed Qimir around the unknown planet just as Rey followed Luke on Oct 2. The Acolyte intentionally referenced shots and sequences from Oct 2 on a place that was indistinguishable from it. Now, it is distinguishable, and I'll explain why, but also, this is Leslie Headland's way of, trying to make you think it's Oct 2. She put unknown planet for a reason, so that people would sit here and speculate now till the next season comes out, because I guarantee you they're going to do a second season. Even though it's a failure, they will do it anyway. This is just a way to get discussion going, but if it was Oct 2, it wouldn't be unknown, right? To the viewer, it's very obvious what it is. Does Qimir actually live on the planet of Oct 2 on the Acolyte? I guess on kind of works. So is that actually where Qimir lives? Did the Jedi Killer make the very planet where the Jedi Order was founded thousands of years before his base of operations? Nope. It turns out the answer is no. The unknown planet is not Oct 2. Qimir resides on a planet where it is possible to mine the rare metal cortosis. Headland said it's not Oct 2, and it was intentionally supposed to be similar in terms of terrain and feeling isolated and surrounded by water. Qimir's planet is not the famous Star Wars setting. The fact his world looks so much like Oct 2 is what matters. Of course, the Acolyte's unknown planet ultimately being revealed to be Oct 2, the significance would have been obvious, the very dark lore, blah, 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 blah. We still wonder if there are other secrets on this island, though. Had it been Oct 2, we might have speculated Qimir used sacred Jedi texts, blah, blah, blah. It's not Oct 2 on a cloudy day and is instead a totally different world. The Acolyte clearly wanted to make that Star Wars connection. There's obviously meaning. I think they wanted you to think that, but that's not what it is. Anyway, none of this matters at this point. Okay, it's not Oct 2, but the fact we had to ask is meaningful enough on its own. Okay, so let me explain to you what this actually is, okay? So you saw Plagueis come out of a cave. We also saw the cortosis inside the cave, right? It's super obvious. Anyone who's read the Darth Plagueis novel is going to know what planet this is. And again, so many people supposedly have read it that it blows my mind that nobody has been talking about this. It's so obvious what planet this is. So one of the things that's important to note is that you do see shots of this island, but you don't see a whole lot of ocean in the shots. So when you're looking at Oct 2, they do these very wide, faraway shots of the island, and it's just completely surrounded by water, whereas in the Acolyte, the island is basically the bulk of the background. Yes, you do see an ocean on the other side, but you don't really get the sense that that island couldn't possibly have a lot of land behind it. So this is clearly the planet Bal'demnic, and rocky tropical islands in the Bakrofsen system of the Orel sector, located within the Outer Rim territories. It has native Qimir species. The harsh climate discouraged most people from ever visiting the planet, despite the beauty of its giant rock cliffs. Listen to this: giant rock cliffs, pristine beaches, and vast azure oceans. It was mostly of interest to cartographers, xenobiologists, and fisherfolk until knowledge of the planet's rich deposits of cortosis. Remember, Qimir has a cortosis helmet. They actually show you the cortosis deposit on the side of the cliff of the cave wall. Cortosis or fell into the hands of Sith lords Darth Tenebris and Darth Plagueis. There you go. Beauty of its giant rock cliffs, pristine beaches, which we are shown in the show, vast azure oceans, which we are more or less shown in the show, deposits of cortosis, we are shown in the show, and Darth Plagueis, we are shown in the show. This is the planet that Plagueis killed Tenebris. He killed him in the cave. He comes out of a cave and looks. She's essentially, she's baiting fans by throwing him in there, because I already said in a previous video, he doesn't need to be in there for the story whatsoever to this point. But she's kind of almost like saying to people who know, like, guys, this is pretty obvious what I'm doing. Now, the only thing she didn't include was the extremely harsh climate, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's harsh all the time. It's like anything else. There's seasons, and maybe sometimes it's harsh and sometimes it isn't. What we get isn't super harsh, but every other description of this planet, including Plagueis, indicates that this is clearly Bal'demnic. It's obvious. It's so plain as day. After Plagueis killed his master Tenebris on the planet and later acquired mining rights to a large portion of the main continent, Bal'demnic did not figure into pan-galactic politics until the Clone Wars. The Confederacy of Independent Systems moved in to invade the mine Bal'demnic of its cortosis to bolster their own war effort. However, the Qimir eventually rose up against the invaders just as they were about to be liberated by the Galactic Republic. As a result, the natives dropped off. Anyways, okay, so there you go. That is what it is. In 67 BBY, subtext mining provided Darth Tenebris with secret intelligence revealing large deposits of cortosis, or within the planet's crust. Tenebris acted on the new information personally, traveling to Bal'demnic with his apprentice Plagueis. Tenebris ascribed special significance to the mission, believing that the two Sith Lords mining cortosis at the apex of the Rule of Two era amounted to the closing of a circle that began with Darth Bane, starting on a path toward darkness in the Apatros cortosis mines a millennium earlier. There you go. So that's the planet, guys. I don't know how else we could ever. I don't know how we could think it could possibly be anything else, right? It's very obvious. The show makes it obvious, but they want you to be like, oh, is it Octo? What is blah, 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 blah. The other thing that's really interesting here, this is just an add-on if you guys want to keep listening, because this is interesting. Now, again, not interesting in the sense that the way that the show was made, the show is very poorly done, but there is some lore stuff here, and you wonder if Plagueis sort of hiding in the cave isn't as cheesy as it is. A lot of people are upset. They're saying, he's in there because, he's in there and he should be, he was prominent and he wasn't just this creepy guy hiding in a cave. But this other theory about this kind of makes that make more sense, because he has the ability to block off others from feeling his presence, right? So he could potentially block off Tenebris from feeling his presence, potentially, assuming he hasn't already killed Tenebris in the story that Leslie Headland is telling. So he's likely to be pretty young. Everyone's already said that. They clearly didn't make him 15. I don't even think they made him 30. I think they retconned that. I think he's probably at least 50 or 60, as I described in my last video. Is Tenebris still active? Is it possible Tenebris is still active? Well, Qimir might actually shed light on whether or not Tenebris is still active, and this is why. So Tenebris trained Plagueis, right, as his apprentice. But Tenebris was also training another apprentice in secret from Plagueis, or so he thought. And that was Darth Venomous. And He had a very specific fighting style. He had the ability to levitate. If you remember Qimir floating down. And the more I'm looking into it, the more my one video where I was super critical of that is actually, it's not that big of a deal as long as they're floating down. I don't want people jumping up and flying around. I don't know if you guys can feel that thunder. We've got a major storm happening pretty soon here. His ability to levitate, and he had faculties with poisons. That's one of the things that he did. So everything is pointing to Qimir being Darth Venomous. And then you have the Plagueis storyline. So Plagueis is Tenebrous' like apprentice, according to Plagueis. He's, I guess, his official apprentice. And then Qimir Venomous would be the hidden apprentice. And so then Plagueis coming out and looking at them leaving, is Tenebrous still there? Plagueis is hiding from everybody, and he's maybe he's discovering that this is his other apprentice. Yeah, so like Plagueis kind of secretly spying on Qimir, knowing that he may have to face him maybe, or whatever, is pretty... It makes sense based on what we've seen in the show. And so I'm really glad I looked into this, because there's a lot of crappy stuff in the show that I don't like. But if this is where she's going, it's not too bad. Yes, delivery of lines, acting in many cases, some of the fighting's ridiculous. Obviously the witches, the soul having so much guilt, there's so much stupid stuff. But as far as the planet they're on, and Qimir, and the Cortosis, and everything, it does sort of point to this, and we don't know Qamir's Sith name. We don't. So yeah, the unknown planet is clearly Bal'demnic, and Qimir, I think, is very clearly venomous. Darth Venomous. I mean, he has all the attributes of Darth Venomous. And again, you have the Cortosis, you have all these connections, you have the cave that Plagueis eventually kills Tenebrous in on Bal'demnic. Like, this is so obvious, right? That's the other thing that might connect this to where it's not just the witches doing it. I know Star Wars Theory and myself and a lot of other Star Wars fans are like, what is this? Like, this kind of diminishes Anakin. How are these witches able to do this? Maybe Tenebrous was involved. You know, Plagueis, of course, would be interested. But at the same time, depending on how old they make Plagueis, maybe he's not at that point where he's the master and the guy dealing with the witches. That's another thing. That's a whole other theory that may or may not be true. But I'm telling you guys, this is so obvious. That's the planet. It's from the books. Qimir is Darth Venomous. It's super duper obvious. Is Tenebrous alive? That's the one thing we don't know. But add it all together, guys. This is what they're doing. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see Tenebrous in Season 2. Maybe there'll actually be some honor towards how Headland uses the Darth Plagueis novel. There is some indication that might be the case here. The only thing is she's throwing in her two female characters, which is what they do with everything. They have to throw in these characters that have nothing to do with the book instead of just doing the book. That's the only thing where it's like, why would you do that? But anyway, let me know in the comment section, guys. Is this pretty much what we're dealing with? If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, to the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.